Unbelievable that video made it in there. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Fish Stripes Live, coming at you on a Monday night here I'm in Gainesville. Alex Carver is joining me. Isaac Azud is joining me. Kevin Barral is in Niagara Falls. He can't make it tonight, and we're awaiting a special guest, Mr. Charles Entertainment Cheese, somewhere in here. But before we get to our special guest, we've got a packed show for you. I've been hyping it up all day because there really is never a dull day. Even though the team isn't performing that well, there really is never a dull day when it comes to the Miami Marlins right now. And today was another busy one. But before we get to some of the headlines that came out today, which there's plenty to talk about there, I want to start where we usually do with recapping the Braves series that just happened. And maybe the dumbest series that I've ever seen in my life, certainly this year, just overall, just how it went. And then obviously the results didn't turn out great for the Marlins, but just so much happened in this series. It was really crazy. And of course, it starts on the first pitch the Marlins throw in the series, when we all know what happened there with Pablo Lopez, running a sinker in on Ronald Acuna. And we know that the history with the Marlins, and for whatever reason, Pablo was ejected. Mel Stottlemyre Jr., the pitching coach, was ejected. Mattingly was ejected. It was really just a crazy sequence of events. It's nothing new with the Braves. It seems like this seems to happen a lot, where there are these fits that are thrown for no reason. Don Mattingly mentioned that he was, told about the history of between these teams and that's why Pablo was thrown out. But when you look at it, Urena hasn't been on the team in a long time. This is a completely new team that you're looking at here. So it was certainly interesting. And, Isaac, I'll start with you here, man. What did you even see from this series? It was just such a crazy series, but just your initial reaction to the Acuna stuff.
No, the Acuna thing really, bothered me a lot. I think there's no reason, we all agree here. There's no reason for Pablo to get thrown out of the game. You can see it from initial reaction as soon as the ball left his hand. It was an accident. And Brian Snitker, he just, added fuel to the fire for no freaking reason, basically bullying the umpires into throwing out the starting pitcher with the first pitch of the game, which really hurt us the rest of the way, really affected us the rest of this series. And then you can say what you want about, yesterday's loss, but I think it all started with the first pitch, and it really, you can't even score a goddamn run. So that's like the main part of it for sure.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, certainly, because it all comes down to, everybody's all mad about how Mattingly didn't pull Yimi in that situation. And yes, Yimi probably needs to be pulled in that situation, but I just don't know where you go to there. And here is our special guest, the man behind the takes were made account. I see that Tottenham jersey in the background. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about the Braves series, starting there, and then we'll get into the headlines today that came out. So Alex, I'm going to go to you here. Just your overall, impressions of the series and the Acuna situation, and just, what kind of craziness went down that weekend.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to watch. After everything happens with Pablo, what you want and what we all want is to see the team with a fire under their ass, that they're able to come out and put some runs up, but they can't even get a run. And I don't care what happens previously. Your bullpen could be as good as the Marlins bullpen was that day. It was spectacular, which is the plus. But if your offense can't score a single run, it doesn't matter if, a guy hits a home run or a guy gets hit by a pitch like we saw with Acuna. If they score one run and you can't score one run, game over. So that's the frustrating part, is that you don't see them, come back. They lose Mattingly, they lose Mel, and you're down to James Rowson, and James Rowson can't rally the guys, and the offense can't put up a run. So that sucks that, that happened the way that it did. I wanted to see them get really mad. We saw Sandy get mad, which was good, pumping up to 100, 101. That was great. And then yesterday, I can't even continue to think think about how that game.
Yeah, where do you even?
Luckily, I was a couple drinks in already for my 4th of July celebration, so it didn't hurt as bad. But man, reliving that, holy crap! Yeah, just unfortunate, man. And I think it comes down to this simple fact. You guys can tell me if you agree. I think this is it.
Yeah, I mean. And like you guys have been saying, it really did all start with that first pitch of the series. Everything just kind of fell in line after that, where Ross Detweiler has to throw 3 innings and 41 pitches, and, the bullpen gets taxed. And I said right then and there, this could set up the Marlins, really screw them for not just the weekend, but a whole week. Now they go play the Dodgers, and the bullpen has been taxed. And Yimi, we saw what happened yesterday. So takes were made. Welcome to the show.
What's up?
We're really excited to have
you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can.
All right, cool. That's always a good thing.
first time we've actually talked, and I'm really excited to get to talk to you. So, just your overall impression of what happened this weekend, and just where do you even start? Mr. Charles Entertainment.
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys, Ethan. It's awesome to finally get to speak to you,
Absolutely.
Alex, Isaac, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. Where do I fucking start? I mean, that was just such a shit show for literally. I mean, the first pitch of the series, the fact that set the tone for the rest of the series, and it's like the little domino all the way leading up to the big domino. Us having to force Yimi out there for 3 days in a row. Floro throwing 30 plus pitches in 2 straight appearances is like
it's crazy.
I said he's going to sue us, and I really think he fucking will, because we're destroying that guy. I had Atlanta fans coming at me in many different forms, some threatening to kill me, some threatening other shit, and it from the first pitch, the people that obviously that this has been discussed in it over and over again. Pablo did not mean to do that. I don't know why, especially when you look at the John Boy breakdown and you see Mattingly say we've played them 7 times with 5 of them going to us. There's no reason for the Marlins to then decide 7 games later to just hit Acuna on the first pitch. And as for the final game of the series, because that's obviously the recency bias of the last thing that happened, it's just funny how this team always finds a way to finally break out offensively and then shit the bed in another form. Yeah. Yesterday, me and Ethan kind of discussed it yesterday as to why Ross Detweiler wasn't in, and it had to have been something where before the game they knew they weren't going to put Detweiler in no matter what. Yeah. Because even after that, they decided to go with Bass, and I'm not getting into Anthony Bass. That's the last time I'm going to talk about Anthony Bass. So they were just in a very shitty position from the start. Yeah. It sucks to see the offense finally come through in that final game and just get shafted by the bullpen, but that's kind of been the story of how it's been going all year.
Well, I kind of think, what I tweeted when it happened in the moment was about how the Marlins did everything right in this game. They did everything right. You get the scoreless inning from Blyer. That's a huge inning from Blyer. Bender comes up. That's the save situation if you really look at it, right? It's your best bullpen arm against Acuna, Freeman, and Albies, I think, right? And it's, that's the highest leverage situation. I said when it happened, this is the save opportunity. So Bender gets the save opportunity. That's what everybody wants, right? He gets through it. That was a dominant inning. You strike out Acuna with wherever it was. It was like 97 in on the hands because, of course, that's where you get Acuna out. And then Freddie gets picked off. You strike out Albies, and you're like, okay, here we go. The offense finally carries some momentum, builds off that. Sandy Leon hits a home run. Aguilar hits a home run. And you're looking at this and you're saying, all right, we just scored 3 runs in the inning. We have a 4-run lead now. There's no way, Yimi can blow this. I mean, Yimi's been, we've said all year that the Marlins bullpen has been so bad in clutch situations because the offense has left them in shitty situations, but they left them in a great spot here. And I mean, you bring in a guy that can't get 3 outs up 4, and then you bring in another guy who can't get the pitcher out. And, we can talk about the managerial decision all you want. We can talk about how Yimi was left out there. But like I said, who do you go to? Detweiler. I'm sure Mattingly and Stottlemyre before the game made a list of guys that were unavailable. And it was probably a really long list because like you mentioned, Floro throws 30 pitches in back-to-back appearances. It's just like, where do you go? Who do you throw in that situation? And they rode Yimi.
After the Acuna thing, I think it's what got him thrown out. He basically said in so many words, I'm not going to use the words that he did because there'd be a lot of cutting for Eli to do, I think. But the phrase was basically, you screwed us for the rest of the series. And that's true because you lose your starter on the first pitch. Now you have to use the bullpen for 9 innings, and then you have to play 2 more games. So just not a good situation all around, man. They were in a bad spot. We could talk about Mattingly's bullpen management all you guys want. I know that's already been dragged out on Twitter, so I don't think we're going to talk about it here. Yeah. But he was in a bad spot. The bullpen was in a bad spot, and it's all because of what happened with Pablo Lopez. So looking back on that series, man, that's one of
the whole fire Mattingly thing, by the way, I get on Mattingly or not, as everybody knows, but I'm not on board with the whole fight. He's been kind of set up. The moment Anthony Bass was signed and he decided to just regress completely, because at the time of the signing, I wasn't even really too against it. I was like, okay, ground ball specialist. He throws harder than Kinsler did. So I kind of didn't mind them trying to replicate what they did with Kinsler in a different form. But it was just an overall regression from Bass. Like he's just not been what he's ever been in his entire career. He's been the worst he's ever been. And that when that's your biggest reliever signing, but you also have to give the front office credit, obviously, for guys like Curtis and Floro who have turned out to be great.
Yeah.
Which Curtis is on the IL.
I think overall, the bullpen has been pretty good, and they did their job in this game up until Yimmy and Bass, and you kind of look at it, and that's why I just say that, the Marlins did everything right. And so Daniel Rodriguez, who is coming to us live from the press box, is joining us now, waiting to get in here. Just, finish us off, put a bow on this series here.
I mean, for this series now, like everything looks, I don't know, say too bleak for the Marlins, especially with the Dodgers. I mean, Dodgers are ready to go. I was on the field looking at them. Pujols look just in great shape today. You have Chris Taylor, and then you look at the lineup today. If there's a time to maybe strike at the Dodgers, it's today. Mookie's not in. Cody Bellinger, Corey Seager's hurt. Just a lot of guys aren't really playing today for the Marlins, but if they want to get up to a hot streak, if they want to come out and beat the defending champs, today has to be the day. They have to have it today because next time there's going to be Cody Bellinger, there's going to be Mookie, and if they want to get it, then it has to be today. It has to start tonight.
Yeah, well, we can get into the Dodgers later, and I wanted to talk about Bellinger because he's really been struggling, and so maybe he gets a day off kind of here to reset. But I guess going towards the Dodgers, just kind of we can go forward now because none of us want to talk about that Brave series anymore. So that's perfect, Eli. Jesus, that was perfect timing. My God, unbelievable. That's why Eli. That's why we have him on the 1s and 2s back there. That is amazing.
My pleasure.
Beautiful. Anyway,
I thought I opened the link. I was like, what the hell did I do?
Got us all garbed there. But anyway, let's move forward into the news that came out today, and we'll start where we always start, which is I said a couple weeks ago, we're going to talk about Starling Marte every week on the show. And I really, thought maybe, okay, there'd be one night where we don't talk about him, whatever. We have talked about him every stream since because the news never really stops with this guy. And so today, the report comes out that the Marlins did approach and make an offer to Starling Marte. Wasn't necessarily a great one, but it's an initial offer. The offer that was reported was 3 years and $30 million. And I kind of want to just go in here for a little bit because I think that there's so many layers to this. So obviously the report comes out that so Starling wants 4 and 50, right? So that's 12.5 annual value. That's about what he's making right now. He's making $12.5 million, I think. So I can't imagine that the Marlins, would be, reluctant to pay him $500,000 more than what they're paying him right now. I can't imagine that's the issue. I think the issue there is obviously that they don't want to pay a 36-year-old Starling Marte $12.5 million when they look at, and I understand that. Like, I really do understand why the Marlins wouldn't want to give Starling Marte the 4th year. I would be more in favor, actually, of the Marlins giving Starling Marte 3 years. But this 3-year, $30 million offer is obviously not going to cut it. He turned it down, as he should. And it's just, it really sets up an interesting situation where you're looking at where the Marlins go from here. And I think they're going to find a number. Like, I think the fact that the Marlins are okay with 3 years, they didn't offer him 2 years. They're saying, we'll pay you until you're 35. I think that Starling, if he really does want to be here, the extra year won't matter. And maybe the Marlins reassess after the 3rd year and they say, we want to give this guy another year. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at it and I'm saying the fact that they're at 3 years is good. But they have to find a number, and they have to do it because this will say so much about where the organization is at and how really serious they are about winning. We've talked about so much about how important keeping Starling Marte is going to be to this organization moving forward. But when you look at, a discrepancy where you're offering him below his average, what he's making right now, nobody should be surprised that they lowballed him out of the gate because that's just kind of how these things work. They're going to come in with the low offer, see if they can get the hometown discount. I don't think they're going to end up paying him like $16-20 million, some people think that because clearly he doesn't want it and he's willing to take a bit of a hometown discount. But I'm looking at it, and I really do think it's okay if the Marlins don't offer Marte 4 years. So this is where I want to bring you guys in because, I have like a million things to say, but I don't really know where to start. So, Isaac, I'm going to go to you on this because we've been talking so much about this on these last few streams. When you saw this news come out today, obviously, I think all of us reacted in saying that's a lowball offer. But how do you think it sets up an outlook for where the Marlins and Starling Marte go from here? Do you think the outlook is positive?
I mean, I think so. I mean, it wasn't positive when the first offer they made Real Muto, it was a lowball offer as well. So who knows if they're going to like actually get agree to give Marte what, he would want. I think 3 years, 40 million would be a nice little even spot. That's like in between where they both want to be. But I think it is like kind of positive that they did offer something. They could have easily, they're 12 years under 500. They could easily not offer him. But it's definitely a positive thing for him being here in the foreseeable future. I think Kim Mang made it clear she wants him back. And I think it is a positive sign for sure.
Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. It just comes down to how much of a discount is he going to take to stay here. How much does he really want to stay here? Because the Marlins aren't going to give him $50 million. That's not going to happen. I think what Isaac said is about right. That if we could meet in the middle, obviously he's not going to take this offer, which he'd be foolish to take this offer that we gave him today, and he didn't. So that was expected. But I think just the basis of the offer is just, hey, we're interested at this price, but we're also willing to work on it, right? By making that offer so early before the end of the season. You'd love to see them get a deal done before the trade deadline so that, we can just put it out of our minds and go forward with trading pieces or whatever. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Obviously, it's still really early. There's a lot of moving parts to things like these. We all know that. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys that he will have to take a hometown discount because he will definitely make a ton more than we are going to offer him in free agency if we get there. Hopefully we don't. But, yeah, it just depends how much less will he take than what he wants. And $40 million would be a good settling point. Will he do it? I guess that's up to him and his agent.
I'll say this, 4 years, 50 is obviously, and a lot of people are just saying, just fuck it. Just give him the 4 years and $50 million. I'm not sure about that. I'm not so sure about that, to be honest with you. Paying $12.5 million for a 36-year-old center fielder, you're not sure. We all think Starling will hold up. He obviously looks really good. He keeps himself in great shape. I think he's going to be able to hold up, but is he going to be able to play at this level for 4 more years? I'm not sure that it's happening. And this comment on the screen now, 13 to 14 average annual value. I think that's, perfect. And I think the Marlins aren't going to be afraid to pay that because they did have money coming in. And I think it shows some commitment from the Marlins to the fact that they at least offered him, right? And they're giving him the 3 years. Like I said, if they came in with 2 years, $12 million, you're looking at that's a real low ball because he clearly wants to be here 3 or 4 years. So I think it's a positive, like I said, that, there's 3 years on the table right now. So Kenny takes, I want to go to you here. Just your impressions and just kind of how you think this sets up for the negotiations kind of going forward.
When I saw the initial offer, I mean, obviously I overreacted. That's my whole thing. I just overreact to everything. But obviously it's a lowball offer. Obviously, when you do this art of the negotiation shit, when you start, they come in low, they name their price, you meet in the middle. That's obvious. And I loved when I kept reading on the article and I saw them say that he would expect them to sweeten the pot as the negotiations go on. As for the years, I went back and forth with a couple people saying that for 4 years for me, I wouldn't mind it. Obviously, the first person that comes to head is fucking Nelson Cruz is like 98 years old and he's still hitting like over 300. But obviously, Nelson Cruz doesn't have that kind of power. So there are differences. And for every Nelson Cruz, there's an Albert Pujols, there's a Martin Prado. There's guys that just regress over time. So I can understand. And I would prefer 3 years. It's not that I would love 4 years, but if that's what it takes to get him done, and again, this is my stupid meatball like fan brain saying like I just want to see Marte with the Marlins for the next 3 years. I'm sure there's a contract structure out there where maybe they do like a 4th year option, or maybe where they do deferred money and we just have like a starting Marte day for like the next 30 years, like Bobby Bonilla with the Mets. But I do think that somewhere around $12 to $13 million a year in the 3 year range is I don't see him rejecting it because he already made it clear he wants to stay. So I also one thing I really liked, and I know this is more like on the negative side of it, is that they said like if a deal doesn't get done, he's being traded, which I think is the right move because I don't think it's to just keep him here for the rest of the year, obviously. So it is a very black and white situation where it's like either sign him or he's off to the Braves to break our hearts for the next 3 years.
Well, I think you're right in the fact that it can be the right thing to do to trade him because you don't want to let this get to free agency. You're going to get outbid if this gets free agency. He can say as much as he wants that he wants to stay here, but if the Yankees or the God knows what any team would be interested in a Starling Marte. Maybe not the Dodgers because they're so loaded already, but you're looking at a Yankees, a Red Sox, a team like that with big money, coming in, and you get into a bidding war with those teams, and you're the Marlins. It doesn't matter how much better your TV contract is, how much. Right, in your naming rights, you're fucked. You're not winning that battle. So if you get into a bidding war for Starling Marte, you're out. You know what I mean? So you can't let that happen. So it's good that the Marlins are all of a sudden showing initiative, and they're taking this and saying, it's time. There's a month left, and I think this can go down right to the wire. These guys can keep going back and forth. Marte can say 450, and the Marlins can say, okay, we'll do 340, and they can go back and forth. I think in the end they kind of meet in the middle. But I'm going to say something that I don't think anybody has said yet, which is Starling Marte, this is the time to put your money where your mouth is, kind of. How badly do you want to stay? I don't think this is something that's been discussed, right? It's like at some point he's got to say, okay, I'll take this discount. I'm willing to stay. I want to stay here for 3 years, 4 years, whatever. I'll take the one less year. And maybe the Marlins, instead of 340, they go up a little to like 342 or something, just because you take the year off, you give them a little bit more money. I would expect that the contract would kind of be front loaded so that you're not paying, 35-year-old Starling Marte as much as you're paying 33-year-old Starling Marte. But there are so many factors here. So Daniel, I want to go to you here, just to kind of keep this going, because this is like I said, there's so many layers to it. So your reaction, and just like I've been asking everybody else, where do you think it goes from here, kind of?
I mean, I really like the idea of a club option, especially if you give him 4 years. Especially, you can see that last year. If he's played well, those 3 years, the first 3 years, if he's playing exceptionally, playing like an all-star, playing Pittsburgh Pirates, Starling Marte, then you instantly take that club option. But it's still going to be a hassle just to sign him. I would really like to see what his trade value would be, what type of prospects the Marlins can get for someone like Starling Marte. Because we've seen how the hitters have been so far this season in the minors. I believe it's towards the bottom half of this minor league hitting average. Do you think maybe Starling Marte, his value trade-wise, is just worth looking at? And we bring in prospects, or we just bring in maybe guys who are just ready to go now? It's like I'm trying to figure out maybe the trade value for him and how it compares to maybe other players in different clubs.
Yeah, no, I would like to, if they do move on from Marte, which, like I said, if they don't get an extension done by July 29th, then you start searching for trades on July, then and there, or you have something lined up just in case. You know what I mean? So I think that I would go the MLB ready route, because the Marlins have gone the prospect route, and they haven't really shown the proficiency to get major league ready hitters. They've done it with pitchers. They've won. If you really kind of look at it, like the Marlins have won every trade in which pitcher's been involved. They got Sandy in a trade. They got Pablo in a trade. They got Sixto in a trade. They got all these guys. No, Trevor was drafted. They got all these pitchers in trades and stuff. So you're looking at it, and they've done a great job with trading for pitchers. They haven't done as great a job as trading for hitters, but they did the Jazz trade when they traded for a more MLB ready prospect. Obviously, he had his flaws, but he was advanced. So I think you kind of got to go for that route.
Don't forget Will Stewart.
Yeah, Will Stewart and that JT.
Hey, he was good. He was good a couple days ago. Leave him alone.
He was, and he was in that cool Instagram picture too. So he gets that.
No, I just think that absolutely, I agree with you guys that if it comes down to it, you got to trade the guy, and I think the Marlins are set up to the point where we can keep. It sucks because you keep talking about the potential of all these prospects, and not a lot of them are hitting so far. So it's like, well, where is it? Kind of show us. The proof is always in the pudding, but I think guys like Blade, obviously Burdick is really on fire right now, so you can talk about the potential they have in the system. But the Marlins are set up to the point where it's like this would be a good move for them if they trade Marte, and I think they would be okay in a few years if they move on from him. But at the end of the day, like, we all know what is best for the team, and what's best for the team is keeping him here. And we'll probably talk about it again on Friday when we preview the next series, because it's just going to, every day. Yeah, go ahead.
The optics of it, by the way, and you touched on this earlier, like, as far as this being set up on a tee for the front office to, like, a prove it type signing where it's like, guys, we're done with losing. We hate losing just as much as you guys. And this is one of those signings that would be a step in the right direction to show fans like, yo, we're tired of fucking getting beat the shit out of by like interdivision rivals. And this is our first step towards proving we recognize the problem of not scoring enough runs.
Yeah, I agree.
The main thing will be the last for me on this, Ethan. The main thing will be, you guys kind of talked about it. The main thing will be length. They're not, and we know this from everything that both Jeter and Kim Ang say about their direction for the franchise. They will not risk blocking the prospects that they have when they're ready to come up. So he's not getting 4 years. There's absolutely no way that we give him 4 years. That's not happening. 3, I think it has to be 3 if you're going to sign him, because look at it from his perspective. He's an older guy. He obviously wants a multi-year deal. He has small kids. He wants the stability for his family on the personal side of it, of remaining in the same place and giving his kids a, comfortable place to grow up where they can make friends and, not have to move all over the place. So he wants to be in the same place probably for the rest of his career, at least most of it. So 3 years, I think, has to be it. But in that third year, as you mentioned, it could be a front-loaded contract. I think it probably should be for the first 2 years, and then the third, maybe he takes a little less. That's how they should structure it, because in that third year, you can maybe offload him if Bladay's ready, if Burdick's ready, if Meisner's ready, if Conine's ready. Like, that's how it has to be structured. So it's not going to be 4. It has to be 3. And I think, as you mentioned, Ethan, it will be a front-loaded contract. That's the optics. Will he do it? That's the question.
I think the reason that, we've said they should go for a 2-3 year deal instead of a 4 year deal is because, like, we know all about the outfield talent in the Marlins system, but they're in the corners. They don't have anybody locked in center field right now. And if they do have a center fielder kind of come out and take that job by the horns, it would be in 3 to 4 years. It wouldn't be in the next year or so. You know what I mean? So if you if you have Marte.
Scott's established as a center fielder. Bladay and Burdick look fine in center field.
No, these guys can play center field. It's just I think you would definitely prefer Burdick to play left, and Bladay. We talked to Chris Garagiola, the Pensacola announcer, and he said that he thinks he can be a fine center fielder, but he would be a really good right fielder. So you're looking at it, but that's a discussion for another day. But what I'm saying here is Marte locks it down. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff if you have Starling Marte in center field. So
sure.
Like I said, we'll probably talk about this again on Friday, but I do think in the end this is a positive step, even though people overreacted to the fact that they lowballed him. Like I saw Aram in the comments, obviously it's not a great offer. But that's what it is in contracts. That's what you do. You kind of lowball at the beginning and then you go up. But I think all they have to do is find a number.
The interest is there, and this solidifies interest. So
absolutely.
The Marlins didn't think he was going to sign today. That wasn't. It was just, hey, here's where we're at. We're willing.
Nobody except the first offer.
Right.
that never happens. So
for them to get it out this soon before the deadline is good. And that's all I'll say.
I agree. Let's move on to the next subject, and that was the maybe even bigger news that came out today, which is that Sixto Sánchez has been shut down for the rest of the 2021 season. He there was a tear in his shoulder, and the Marlins. I think this is important. The Marlins were recommended rehab. The doctors said rehab and try and avoid surgery, and obviously any team wants to try and avoid surgery because of what it can do to pitchers. That didn't go well. Unfortunately, the tear didn't heal, and Sixto's gonna have to go under the knife. So it sucks. It really is upsetting just from a fan's perspective because you don't get to see Sixto pitch this year. But I kind of want to go into this discussion of like what should the Marlins have done. But Isaac, I'm going to go to you here. Just when you heard this news and you see Sixto being shut down, I was asleep I just got back from Atlanta. I was asleep in the car and I woke up and all of a sudden Sixto's out for the year. So just your reaction to it.
I don't think he was going to pitch this year anyway. That was probably the best course to move. The fact that he was recommended just rehab rather than surgery out of spring training was, a little strange, and that it was kept a secret for so long was a little weird for sure. But it definitely disheartening. We're not going to see him all 2021. It's a lost season, but it is good. Hopefully he will be back, full strength by like January, February. So he's like, 100% for spring training. I think that's what's important. So he is a part of that, opening day rotation, but definitely sucks. It's just a tough year for sure.
Alex, I saw you had a lot of reaction to this, so I want to get your opinion and just your thoughts here.
Yeah, as Isaac just mentioned, the fact that and I'm not a doctor, right? Let's preface this right now. I'm not a doctor, and I got a powwow. You talked about Aram being in here. I know Aram in his high school career went through arm issues, so I would want to talk to him because he probably has a lot more knowledge than I do. But just at the forefront, my own thoughts and my own, like, I look at this and I'm like, what are they doing? The guy had arm issues before, right? It's like serious arm issues with his throwing arm. He throws 100 miles an hour, right? He's going into this rehab. He's throwing at 60 feet, he's throwing at 80 feet, he's throwing at 120 feet. Then never gets past it, has all these setbacks. How many setbacks, Ethan? Did we like 3 at least?
So we got to, like, in spring, he was throwing starts.
Right.
And then he was throwing, like 30 pitches, 3 innings, whatever the case was.
Yeah.
And then, he got shut back down right before, he was like set to make 1 or 2 more rehab starts. And then he was going to pitch in New York maybe, and then step back. And then he got up to throwing a bullpen. He threw 1 bullpen, and during that bullpen, there was a setback. And since then, he got to 120 feet, and then he got shut down.
Right. And this is what I don't understand. This is the top prospect in the organization. You got a lot riding on him. You really want him to be here. You want to see him pitching. You want to see him here. And you find out, okay, he has a tear in his shoulder, and he's already had arm issues. And you recommend him continuing to throw the baseball? Like I don't get that. Like that I look at, we know, from the small medical details that we do know, just being fans of the game and students of the game, is that throwing a baseball is an unnatural body motion and body positioning for any pitcher. And here you have a guy that's throwing upper 90s, 100 miles an hour, and you're trying to get him back to that point. It's just an overwhelmingly large risk. Like, if he wasn't going to pitch this year, why was he throwing it all? Give him the surgery. Yeah, we know that, nobody ever wants to have surgery and you want to try to avoid it. But, man, I think the risk in him rehabbing was far more greater than the reward of seeing him pitch for a week this year in an uncompetitive season. So I don't get it. I don't get it from the medical side. We don't have time to go into that. I don't have the mind to go into that. But just from the fan standpoint and what we do know, about pitching and arms and how hard he throws, I don't understand why he just wasn't, at least after the first setback, just say, okay, that's it. You had a setback, you're done. Like, just get the surgery and you're done. So,
well, we've talked about this before, Alex, and you have your concerns that this is going to linger throughout his career.
Yeah,
and I think it could be a concern because this happens to pitchers. Look at a guy like Noah Syndergaard. He's been great in his career, but he can never stay healthy, and it doesn't take away from the fact that he's great. It doesn't take away from the fact that Sixto can contribute to this team, and I think he'll still be a great pitcher for a long time. But, this could be something that bothers him throughout his career. But I just want to clarify, because I saw Aram asked, he's undergoing season-ending surgery. An MRI revealed a small tear in his posterior capsule. I don't know what that is, but that's what the injury was. That's from Jordan McPherson of the Miami Herald. So, Takes, I want to go to you because I want to get the fan perspective here. And just, when you see Sixto out for the year, the kind of disappointment that just kind of like, rushes over you.
But I really wasn't disappointed at all, if I'm being honest, because like Isaac said, I kind of never expected him to pitch this year. In the beginning of the year, when there were talks about trying to get him a couple starts before opening day and he would probably miss his first start, there was optimism. There was like this sense of, okay, we can maybe get him back in a week or two. And then it turned into throwing from 119 feet to 120 feet to 120.5 back to home, el bobo. And then it went back to like resting, injured, inflammation, this. And that's where automatically the first thing that pops up in me, the fan's head, is, man, when we first traded for this guy, he had arm issues. And now he's having more arm issues. And he's young. And it's that's where you kind of start to get worried of, like, is this going to be one of those things where is this like just how his whole career is going to go? Because that's going to suck. Like, he's one of the most entertaining pitchers in all of baseball when he's healthy. So that kind of sucks. But as far as like, was I hurt by this? No, I mean, I'm glad. I guess I'm glad that that's it. We finally got like a conclusive answer. Like, this is it. He's getting surgery and it's to fix it and he'll come back. And that's where we start from scratch. But I look, this is going to be shocking to all of you, but I'm not a doctor. So when Craig said, look, it turns out he had a tear for a while now, and now this is what they've decided to do. Like, some people were like, what the fuck? And some people were like, okay, cool. And I was just kind of like, I don't know what any of this shit means. Like, that's it. Like, to me, like, surgery, cool. Like, fix it. Let's move on. Like, that's what I mean. We obviously thank God. Again, more fan perspective for me. Like, well, we have like, if there's one thing the Marlins are good at, it's at making anybody a good pitcher.
Yeah.
They could sign any one of us from this call, and we can probably go out and start for 3 innings, no hits. So it's like
a nasty changeup.
Yeah, I'll throw that. Well, I'll fucking spin rate that shit. Give me a little spider attack, and I'll go 4 deep. but it's disappointing. I'm not too disappointed because I think this is the right decision. Like, that's it. Just let's move on. Let's try and restart this, and let's not let this be something that lingers. But yeah, my initial disappointment wasn't really as much as I thought it would be.
Yeah,
well,
I kind of
surgery similar to what Pablo had, right? As well, it was a shoulder surgery that Pablo had at one point, or no? He never had surgery.
I think Pablo had TJ. Am I?
Yeah, to clarify, he had Tommy John really early in his carear, like 5-6 years ago.
But, and he had like a shoulder strain. All right.
Yeah, he had 2 shoulder strains in 2018 and 2019, but never surgery for those.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you were saying, Kenny, which is just like, I guess maybe this should have happened in spring, and maybe you get a chance, to see him at the end of the year or whatever. But I just, you want to see Sixto this year, and I think the Marlins thought they would be more competitive than they were, and now they're looking at it 12 games back, and they're like, all right. But I think the one good thing it says is like people had service time manipulation concerns, that the Marlins were holding out on him on purpose. And I never really bought into that, but this shows that that was clearly not the case, which is good because I hate when teams do that. That's something that is just kind of, plagues baseball nowadays is this service time manipulation. So obviously this isn't where the Marlins were going. I just want to note that Jordan in his article, it's just a short little blurb, said that Sixto is expected to be ready for spring training next year. So that's huge, obviously. And I think that this will be good for Sixto in the long term. But we don't know. Will he come back with the same velocity? Will he come back with the same stuff? I think that's people's fear, is that he won't exactly come back with the same stuff. But if he comes back with a little less velocity and a little less stuff, you're still looking at a really good pitcher. I mean, our buddy Ian Smith, friend of Fish Stripes, when early when he first saw Sixto pitch for Jacksonville last year, a couple years ago, he said Johnny Cueto with more velocity. So if you kind of tone down velocity, you're looking at Johnny Cueto, who's a really good pitcher. So, it sucks, like I said, from a fan perspective and just from a baseball lover perspective, where you want to watch Sixto pitch, and that kind of exposure could be great for the Marlins to see that guy. Jazz is all over MLB social media, and Sixto could be as well. But he could still win Rookie of the Year next year. Just saying. So
there's always that.
Yeah, there's always that. Daniel, I just wrap us up here on this Sixto situation. Just kind of, what were your thoughts and what do you think about it going forward?
Yeah, the first thing I gotta say is the ice cream is amazing here.
I saw you going in on it, dude. No,
everybody knows Ethan loves his ice cream.
I saw you going to town on the
I had to get the Ethan special right here. Some Oreos, some sprinkles. Just had to get it before it gets sold out. But going to Sixto, when they announced it today for the media, I was like a little shocked at first, especially what they announced they had. They said posterior something in his right shoulder. They mentioned it was a small tear. So when that came out first, I kind of suspected that I thought he was going to maybe come back towards September around that time, but they mentioned coming for spring training 2022. And it's just a lost season for Sixto, and also for the rest of the pitchers. And you have a great year so far for Sandy, and Trevor's an all-star, and then you just don't have Sixto to help out the rotation. It just really sucks. It's not really a good look for the Marlins when we have one of the bright young pitchers out for the season on something they probably could have found out a couple months ago. And just to have it now, it kind of really sucks for us. But there's hope, I think, in the future. I just want to how long Sixto maybe does when he comes back. I don't really think you put him in there, you give him 8 innings, 7 innings, come back slow, maybe 4 or 5 innings. But it really just depends on Sixto next year, and also some of the future pitchers like Meyer and Eder.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. You know, I was talking to my buddy today, and he said to me, you know, Marlins have a top 10 rotation even without him. And I mean, really, it's top 5. You know, I said to him, like, dude, it's top 5. And they don't even have Cabrera or Meyer or Eater, you know, the guys that Alex focuses so closely on. And I mean, Eater dealt this weekend, Meyer dealt this weekend. You know, Eddie's been fantastic in Double A so far. So we know what the Marlins can do with pitching, but this is certainly disappointing. And I do think it's good because at this point, you know, pitching him in September, what's that going to do? You know, lost season, but this is really becoming a season from hell for the Marlins. I said this on Twitter today where, you know, the team's underperforming and then Sixto's down with an injury. And it's just, it's man, it's been brutal.
It's
so this is
when you look at it long term, like when he was injured with the Phillies, it was, I believe, the shoulder. I think they called it shoulder inflammation. Then he hurts his elbow, and now he hurts another part of his shoulder. You heard Kim Ang say that he had bursitis. Like, there's just so many health issues with this guy, and
it's scary.
It's going to be tough to see him as the guy that throws 100 miles an hour and goes 5 and 6 innings going to start when he has this many problems to start his career. So
all those.
When we look back at the Real Muto trade, when we look back at it 3 years from now, we could say that we lost.
Yeah, no, and he hasn't even had Tommy John surgery yet. And when a guy, you know, with a guy that throws 100 like that, like when Glasnow went down with his injury, I'm like, that guy's bound to, have, you know, he was bound to have it. And Sixto, you know, with the way guys are throwing and the way that they go to it now because they know how well it holds guys, you know, guys hold up in the long term. Like you know. Might as well do. I don't know.
I mean, he's a big dude too, with high effort, like Cueto, like you talk about, like really high effort, and Sixto's big, so you worry about it long term for sure. Anyways,
and the good news is, like, you know, this commenter says they're set up well. You know, if Sixto, you know, is out and whatever, they're set up well with the depth in the organization. But we're almost 15 minutes, so. First pitch, and we haven't even talked about the Dodgers series, and I don't even know if any of us want to talk about the Dodgers series because the Marlins are facing one of the, you know, maybe the best team in baseball here. So I'll just run through my numbers as I usually do here to start. The Dodgers are 53-31. They're 22 games over 500. They're second in the National League West, which is also second in baseball. They're behind the San Francisco Giants. They've won 9 in a row. Since they were no hit by my Cubbies, and the Cubs have lost 9 in a row since then. Kind of a weird thing since that game. Yeah, that no hitter just changed everything for both of those teams. You know, the Cubs were hot; they throw no hitter, lost 9 in a row. The Dodgers were kind of shaky, got no hit. Now they've won 9 in a row. So anyway, they were in third place actually, and now they're second. They're within a half game of the Giants, ahead of the Padres, and we all know that the National League West is going to have 3 playoff teams this year. They've got their 4th in weighted runs created plus, 7th in OPS. Of course, their pitching staff has the best ERA in all of Major League Baseball, and they're 3rd in Ks per 9. They strike out more than 10 guys per game. Max Muncy is one of my favorite cases in baseball of a guy who just is so underrated and such a fantastic hitter. Look at these numbers. He's hitting 264, 416, 558. So that's a 974 OPS and 168 weighted runs created plus. But this is something you never see in baseball nowadays, which is an 18.9% walk rate and a 19.2% K rate. So his walk rate is almost higher than his K percentage, which is just outlandish in today's game. You never see that. The guy has such an amazing command of the strike zone. One guy you talked about, Daniel, earlier, that Bellinger's not in the lineup. He's really been struggling this year, and Betts is having one of those guys that's having an okay, it's a good year, but it's just kind of okay by his standards. I looked at him. He's got Mookie has an 810 OPS, 127 weighted runs created plus, so that's still really good. But Mookie Betts hitting 247. You're not really looking at as a great year from him. And Bellinger is really struggling, and he's had injuries that he's struggled with. But 189, 310, only 316 slug, 626 OPS, 81 weighted runs created plus. So he gets the day off. I think you said Mookie gets the day off as well. So when the Dodgers come to town, obviously it's Muncy's not in the lineup either. Okay, so we'll see Muncy in this series, and they won't see them tonight. So this looks like, with Trevor Rogers on the hill, this looks like the Marlins' best opportunity to steal a win from the Dodgers tonight. If they're going to do it, it probably would be tonight. And when you look at the pitching matchups, there are some really good pitching matchups in this series. And it starts tonight with Walker Buehler, who's one of my favorite pitchers in the league, and Trevor Rogers. So just takes, I'm going to go to you here first, man. Just your expectations, what you're thinking as the red hot World Series champions coming to town after the Marlins blow a 4-run lead in the 9th yesterday.
First thing, when you brought up Bueller, the first thing that popped in my head was his tight ass pants. And besides that, though, every time I watch most games with my dad, and he always says the same thing because they have Mookie Betts, they have Bellinger, they have Muncy, they have these guys that are just like complete sluggers. But then the guys who beat the crap out of us are always people that my dad's like, who the fuck is this guy? It's
Well, the Dodgers
like
have a million of those guys. Yeah,
exactly. It probably has a lot to do with like their development or some shit like that, I'm sure.
Mhm.
But like guys like Pollock, Chris Taylor, like guys that you just never hear of, and they're the ones that like kill us the most. So I expect us to get swept, but that's the optimistic take. But I wanted to at least, I want to see. I think this is a big series for Rogers, and Sandy goes tomorrow.
Sandy goes on Thursday.
On Thursday, who goes tomorrow?
Pablo goes tomorrow. So the big three goes. So
that's the most exciting part about this is to see how they fare against a lineup of that caliber. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll steal a game. I don't know. I don't have much like optimism for because really if you have optimism about this offense, you're just like playing the lottery. Like one day they'll show up and score 10, and the next day they'll score 1. But for pitching, I'll always turn in to see our pitching, especially our starting pitching.
Well, the good news is, the big three goes in this series. So you got 4 games against the Dodgers. You got the whole big three is pitching. And Sandy, his worst start, his only bad start, maybe that Nationals game, was that game in LA where he couldn't get out of the first inning or the second inning.
Yeah.
And he goes against Kershaw on Thursday. And Sandy, he's a guy that he always gets like amped up for big starts, and that's certainly a big start against the World Series champions and Clayton Kershaw on Thursday. So I would like to see him respond, like you said, with a big performance. But yeah, I mean, anytime that you have your big three going, you have a chance, in a series to take a couple games. But with the way this line, I mean, I didn't even realize how good their lineup has been. Their freaking pitching is outstanding. And Urias is no schlub either, and he goes on Wednesday. So just taking a look at these pitching matchups: Bueller and Rogers, Gonsolin and Lopez, Urias, and the Marlins haven't announced a starter for them yet, and then Kershaw and Alcantara. So I mean, there's some really good pitching matchups in this series. It should be a great series for pitching. But Isaac, I know where you stand, buddy. Like, what is a success if the Marlins, leave this series and they look back at it and they say it's a success?
I mean, just winning 2. I think, like Take said, maybe winning 1. I mean, honestly, if I were to put an over-under on how many runs we scored this series, these 4 games, maybe 3. We're honestly over-under 3 runs, which great, But
and if we score over that, it'll probably happen in 1 game, and then we'll get shut out the other 3 games.
They'll score 11 in 1 game, right?
And the pitching will keep us in all 4 of the games. It's gonna be frustrating as hell. But you know what? If we can come out of here. If we're not going to be totally selling, if we're going to try, pretend like Atlanta didn't happen, we keep we win 3 out of 4, that'd be dope. But, I'm not getting my hopes up for that one. But success, staying in all the ball games, I think the win-loss column really doesn't matter anymore.
You know what? There's too much negativity here. I'm going to say the Marlins sweep.
Yeah, well.
This is what you come to this stream for, the analysis, the epic analysis. Walker Bueller's tight-ass pants and the Marlins are sweeping the World Series. It's good to have you. It's beautiful to have you. No, when you look at it, like, I kind of think Isaac is right at this point. Like, you really just want to see the Marlins compete, stay competitive, show that they can stay in ball games with the World Series champions and not let these starts get away from you. Alex, are you more interested in what's going on down on the farm this week than you are with the Marlins? I know you usually are, but more so this week.
Tight-ass pants.
You know me, and you called me negative the other day, but that's okay. I mean, I've kind of been out since the Pittsburgh series, honestly. So I mean, I mean, honestly, there's much more entertaining baseball to be found at 3 of 4 affiliates right now, with Jupiter being the only exception because they're struggling. But everybody else, watch Troy Johnston in Single A Advanced. You can watch Peyton Burdick and JJ Bleday in Double A. Triple A, I mean, you can watch Lewis Brinson and Isan Diaz, who's been pretty good. Well, actually, Lewis Brinson's been very good.
Exhausting.
You can watch Isan Diaz.
Exhausting. I know Kenny's tired.
Christ.
If you haven't gotten the full of Isan takes were made, you can go watch it.
I need Brinson to get to 1,000 plate appearances. I need it to happen.
But yeah, there's on the more serious side, Bryson Brigman's doing well. Some of their pitchers are doing pretty good. So yeah, I mean, honestly, there's something to be found at all of those levels. But here we are on a Monday, and there's none of that to be watched. So I guess I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I'm a huge shit talker. Like I always say, I don't care anymore. I don't care if they win or lose. But like Sandy Leon hit a home run, and I was doing cartwheels off the fucking wall. Like I was.
I know you watch every
talk.
game.
Like
Yeah, you watch every game.
We
will, and hey, now it's my job to watch every game, so I'm going to be watching every game going forward. But I mean, look, the reality of it is, it's going to get tough, man. And you're really looking at the fact that like these games are starting to just be about, what does Jesus Sánchez do and what does Jazz do, and just kind of keeping it in. And so, Daniel, you're there. Is there a bit of there's a storm coming your way down there, right? Like is there a bit of nervousness in the building tonight?
Honestly, all I see is like a sea of blue, a sea of LA. It's probably right now probably 70-30, maybe 60-40 more to the Dodgers side. It's just really insane to see.
Is it a good reopening day?
Yeah, it's a good crowd today. It's
the
really
first
good,
time
especially on a Monday.
Yeah, it's the first
It's a
time back
Monday.
capacity, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, it's reopening day, so it's the time they've had full capacity. So, all right. Anyway, seven minutes left here before first pitch on reopening day. Let's do it. Let's go around. I have a question for all of you. I don't want to know, how many games they take. Do the Marlins take a game in this series, Isaac?
100%, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Alex, which game do they take?
Tonight.
Okay. Alex, do the Marlins take a game in this series?
If they get one, it's between tonight and the matchup with Kershaw if they can score for Sandy Alcantara. But I'll say they get at least one. The very optimistic side of me would say that we split it, but I would probably say they get one.
Takes.
It's so weird because no matter what my answer is, I can't help but laugh at it because I want to say they don't take any games, but knowing me, they'll sweep. So I'm gonna say one game. I'm gonna say one game, and I think it'll be tonight.
Daniel.
It makes the most sense.
Tonight, the Dodgers lineup this is the time to strike. Mookie out, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger. If they want it, it has to be tonight.
Usually on these streams, when there's a time to strike, it's when you're going up against a weak pitcher, But you're going up against a weak lineup tonight, and frickin' Walker Buehler's on the mound. So it's just like, what do you even do about that? So anyway, there are some great matchups in this series, as I mentioned, and what the one I'm really looking forward to is seeing how Sandy responds, because obviously this was his worst start, and pitchers hold on to that kind of stuff. So I want to see how he responds, on Thursday night. I want to see, him. I want to see him battle Kershaw, and I want to see Pablo. After what happened to him in the last game, I want to see him kind of come out with a little bit of. He said he was ready to pitch next night, so I want to see him come out with a little bit of passion and fire. But anyway, so the Marlins here, what can you really say? Coming off one of the weirdest series of the year, trying to create some kind of momentum, get something going. And obviously a busy day today. 4 games against Dodgers coming up, and then this weekend the Braves come back to town. I think I'm going to be there Wednesday, and then I'll be there on Friday for the Braves game. But here we go. It's the World Series champions. So Eli,
Kevin,
you got something?
Kevin predicts that they're going to split the series. Always optimistic.
Okay. Kevin, our boy, shout out to him, coming to us live from Niagara Falls. And I'll say they take. It's hard to predict anybody who sweeps a 4-game series, so I'll say they take at least one, probably 2.
I said that last year, and I ended up almost owing 700 people who retweeted a tweet jerseys, because I said if they swept the Orioles in a 4-game series with a third of their roster, I would give everyone jerseys. And they fucking did it.
Fun. I remember
that was a great series.
People were like, "Where are my fucking jerseys?" I was like, "Dude, I'm not fucking giving you a jersey. What the hell? I'm joking."
That season last year, man. That was too much fun. That I remember that Orioles series. That was something. But anyway, Dodgers come to town for 4 reopening day tonight. For Daniel, for Kenny of Takes Were Made, for Isaac, for Alex Carver, for Eli. Behind the scenes, I'm Ethan Badowski. Enjoy the game tonight. Go Fish. We'll talk to you guys again on Friday.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch.